Okay. I grew up in a family of 5, and things were okay. Things were good. Things were like a normal family. I think we were happy, or I think I was too young to realize anything. But as I grew up, there were certain things that happened in my family that raised red flags or an alarm.
I grew up in a home where my parents were married. They've been married since about 1988. We grew up in a home where we used to take holidays, we used to go on picnics, until things changed when I started high school. They lived apart for about 2 years, 3 years, and then dad came back. But all of a sudden, there was this almost an emotional abuse, a silent abuse.
Okay. So for me, it's scary enough. I actually remember physical abuse episodes from like an age of 7. I was very young, and initially, and I think even just going even before that, I think I just remember my parents being great parents. I didn't know much about marriage because you're just a child. You just live with your mom and your dad, and they were individually and together really good parents, and I can never really take that away from them at all.
Growing up in a place where laughter was the order of the day, to waking up to quarrels, and waking up to someone angry at the next person, waking up to fights physically and emotionally, took a toll on how I grew up and how I viewed marriages or family life.
Things were not so gory. We had wars between my parents that were not spoken. So these wars would affect us. There was a battle for our attention, a battle for conversations, a battle for affection. There was even a silent battle financially. And reality of it is, it was each one on its own. In the space of a marriage, we'd have dad's finances and we'd have mom's finances.
So I think it was only when I was about 7 where I actually witnessed, an episode in the house right in front of me, and I thought, no, hold on, what is this? And as a 7-year-old, that's traumatic. You don't want to walk into a room and, you see your parents having a physical fight, and you just filled with fear, and you're filled with so much confusion, and from then on it dents you for years to come, especially because it became a normal thing. It became a part of our life, and it became a constant thing.
And if any one of the two has problems, nobody's going to come in and solve the problem. You solve it on your own, whether you go and take out a loan, whether you don't go and take out a loan, that's all on you. And I think it affected us in the sense that individually, as people, as kids individually, we really are in a space of, if something goes wrong, I fix it myself. I don't tell anyone, I don't say anything. And it causes a ripple effect of, I'll keep getting deeper, whether it be into debt, whether it be into trouble. And yeah.
So I think over the years growing up, I just had to live with it. It's not something I spoke about with friends or family or anybody for that matter. As a young child, you just think, okay, maybe this is how my household is. And, as we grow up becoming teenagers, it becomes a thing. I remember for my brother as well, he struggled a lot with it. And it started affecting us school-wise, in friendships and how we relate with people. So it just started becoming a really big thing in our hearts and how we live our lives. And yeah, it wasn't pleasant. It affected a lot of things a lot of decisions that we made, and even though they were still good parents, but because you knew then the difference between parents and marriage, you then already could see that, okay, something is not right. And yeah, so that's how it was mostly.
With everything that was going on and a little brother being added to the family, I had to now stop being the little child and literally take up the big sister role. And I think my childhood was kind of stolen from me because of everything that was happening. I had to become a a mother to my two brothers, because I felt that I needed to shield them so that they don't see what I was seeing. And I felt that I had to protect them from, you know, the hurt that I was feeling then. Although I know that they did experience a bit of that and they saw a bit of this, but I took a role of the protector, and that really stole a lot from my childhood, from my teenage. I don't know what childhood means, because I had to step up and be something that I was not. So that affected the person that I became. It affected how I related to people. It affected how I related to myself, because I So, yeah, getting into the conversation, there's an article I read that says that every trauma that a child experiences from childbirth till their teen years, they carry until a time where they can express how they feel or how it affected them. So it scared me so much, because we go around life, you know, thinking that, you know, we only experience things when we're older. And there was somewhere in the article where it says that we are only able to express ourselves in our teen years. So from 0 months to 13 maybe, and some people take longer, like me. Like, some people take longer and they don't know how to express themselves.
Yeah.
And only then do they express themselves in a form of personalities, in a form of somebody. I like to make an example of a child who has a thorn stuck in their foot somewhere, in their shoe somewhere. Until they scream and point at the shoe, no one will know what's going on. So they can go and they'll scream and they'll cry, and people will come try feed the baby, thinking maybe the baby's hungry, shush the baby, oh, the baby's sleepy, until they're at a point, they're old enough to actually point at the shoe and say, there's a thorn in my shoe. That's when they can get the help. And that's exactly how we are. We go around, especially growing up in a broken family, we walk around with this thorn in our shoe, and until somebody comes and until we can actually say to people that there's a thorn in my shoe, I need help, nobody will know. And I think that's the purpose of what we're doing today. We're saying we've been walking around with thorns in our shoes, we're pointing at the thorn, and we're starting our healing journey. So I just want us to have a conversation on, just to continue the conversation on I touched on personalities a little, but I wanted to know how we related to our parents individually, like mommy and daddy. Like, with everything that was happening, how did you relate to them, Thando?
Okay. I think as a child, for me, it was a bit difficult to channel myself in a specific way of responding to my dad, because that was where everything changed. My relationship with my dad, because obviously from where I stood, it seemed as though my dad was in the wrong, and he was, you know, for the physical abuse, but I didn't understand the whole marriage situation. So from when I saw, all I knew was like, oh my gosh, my dad is doing this to my mom, and I'm on my mom's side, like, automatically, you know. And in the way that I related to my dad, I think there was actually a battle on the inside of me, to be honest with you, because as a child, in your heart, there's a space for your dad and your relationship with your dad. And you cannot erase that. You cannot decide that you're not entertaining that, because it will creep up on you. You know what I mean? So as much as I was like, no, why is he being like this? Why is this happening? And you find yourself being hostile towards your dad, and then you also love him. And then you also want him to be proud of you. Then you also want him to be a part of your life. And then you don't. It's like a battle on the inside of me that I felt like I was experiencing over the years. And eventually it was just a huge battle. And I had to then personally make a choice at an age where I, you know, had a better relationship with God, and understanding that, no, I have to choose to respond to my dad in a certain way and not allow my feelings to actually give way and allow me to be hostile to my dad. So it was really a battle. It was.
I can relate.
I think with me, I grew up and I was my mom's best friend. like automatically. Of course, we're the only two girls in the house. So I don't think I ever got to see my dad objectively. It was always subjectively, you know, to the way that he was portrayed to me by my mom. And of course, there were things that I'd see and I'd be like, no, but that's so wrong, that's so wrong. And I want to point it out and say, Dad, you're so wrong for doing this. But in the same light, I'd never seen my mom's fault in whatever was going wrong. And it kind of breaks the bond that I had with my dad. My dad was one of the best dads in the world. He'd push you to see the best from you, to see the best come out of you. And I'd always stand back and say, I don't want to do that, to spite him. And you don't think about the fact that in actual fact you're actually spiting yourself. You're not really spiting him. He's just trying to get the best out of you. He's trying to do his job, you know, play his part as a parent. Yeah.
I think it's the same with me. It's funny how in both situations there's a point where we had to choose, whether it's consciously or, you know, unconsciously. Because with me, I grew up, me and my dad were best friends. We were like, I'd go to jazz festivals with my dad. He's that guy who introduced me to people like Helen Keller in books when I was still in grade 4. You know, we had that relationship like, oh no, you must read this, you must do that, I want you to do that. He wanted the best for me, you know, and I believed that for some time. Until when things happened and I chose my mom's side over his, I started seeing everything that he does as an attack. So I was just like, oh, because I'm on my mom's side, you are doing this thing to hurt me, you know. And because I think I was pretty young, I couldn't see, you know, I couldn't be at a point where I am right now and be like, okay, let me look at his situation and her situation and, you know, just be the child and don't take sides. But I did. I took sides. I took my mom's side all the time, whether my mom was wrong. And in my eyes, she was never wrong. I see some things now and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe there you were not, you know, but then back then she was never wrong, you know, and everything my dad did was wrong, and that came out of a response of anger and hurt because of what you see him doing to your mom, you know.
That's the thing.
And the thing is with me it was like it broke my heart. It broke my dad's heart, and I only saw this, I think, this month, because June is the month where he passed away. So I had time to reflect and do all of those things, and only now it hits me that person, you know, literally wanted the best for me, you know. And I only back then I didn't see how much he loved me. I knew when we were best friends, and when I got angry at him I was just like, this man, you know. But now I'm just like, the person loved me so much, but I was so busy being hurt that I didn't see that he was also hurt. You know, you come to a point where you have to realize that both these people are hurt. And back then I didn't see that. I just saw that he was hurting me. He was hurting my mom. I think I broke down for a while. I broke down and I'm just like, wow, I spent so much time, you know, being angry at this person instead of showing him the God that I am experiencing right now, you know, instead of forgiving him so that he can have that relationship that I am having with God right now, you know. And that's what we do. We cancel people out of our lives and expect them to reach out to a God that we already know, that we could just hand over to, you know. So I think the choice I made was tainting to him and to my mom, because then you actually aid the fact that she would also think that, you know, I'm also doing right, you know, because now she'll never see her wrongs, because I mean, Nosy is on my side.
True. I think I only realized that. We were talking a bit earlier, but I'm only realizing that now, that I can have those conversations with my mom now and say, but listen, Mom, the way that you do 1, 2, 3 is also triggering, not only obviously to my dad, but also to us as children, and it affects us in these ways. Obviously it's still a battle, and it's an ongoing conversation. I don't think a person can realize something that they're doing and change overnight. But as it goes, it gets better. It gets better with time, with conversation. It gets better with opening up your mind. It gets better with getting more of God in you.
Yeah. And I think it's something that we should all learn. You know, especially I don't want to classify us as children who come from dysfunctional families.
Doesn't sound
but
right.
I know it doesn't sound right. It's not like we need an AA meeting or something like that. But I just feel we need to get into a place where we're like, you know, we all need we all need Christ.
Yeah.
We all need forgiving.
Yeah.
And we all need the love that we are so quick to want from other people. You know, we need to come to a point where we're like, I want to give out this love anyway, because that's how people learn. People learn from our actions. You can hand a person a Bible, and chances of them reading the Bible is like really slim. But if you do the Bible, do that forgiveness, it's a different thing. I think for one, if I chose to follow Christ in that situation, no matter how hard it was, no matter how heartbreaking it was for me, I think things would have turned out differently. You know, I think I would have also turned out differently. You know, because the reactions that we choose to, you know, I don't know what to say, but how we choose to react to certain things also determines or unfolds the next, you know, I don't know, scene of our lives. You know, so and that's why I mean even God Himself gives us a choice to choose. You know, and whatever choice that you make has a consequence. So if you come to a point where you're being very conscious of your decision, things will turn out differently. And our children from birth till, you know, teenage years will not go through what we are going through, you know?
You know, on that note, I think if I look back now, I can also say that even though it was difficult as a child to not choose sides, once, you know, I got to a point where I had the ability to choose to not pick a side, had I think for now going back to my varsity years, because that's when it really hit me. I mean, it was, you know, you're out by yourself, new environment, a lot of changes, you're finding your identity and all that, and those things just come back and they start challenging you here and there. So I remember by then my parents had gotten divorced, and it, you know, then the reality of, okay, my mom lives here, my dad lives there, was becoming a real thing for me. And at that time, my dad literally just cut all ties with myself and my brother. And for him, he was, from now I understand that he was broken himself. Like you're saying, they are broken. They're not just these monsters that maybe as a child you once thought they were. They are human beings. And sometimes not to justify, you know, the physical abuse, but there are things that they were experiencing from a younger age when we weren't around, from their households, that probably affected the way that they treated their wives. You know, so now now I'm in varsity, and my dad's not talking to me, and he's just shut me out, and he's just like, no, you're not my children anymore. And it was so painful. And yet, you know, I realized that actually from his perspective, we did choose a side.
Yes.
We did. And it was the marriage. I mean, like I said before, my brother and I both experienced my parents as good parents. We saw my dad hustle, you know, and take us to work with him and do all these cute little things, bring us Tinkies home, and we had those good memories of my father, and we can't just forget that. And now on his side, he's thinking, I've been betrayed because these kids, I raised them, and now, you know, bye.
Well, he thinks you cut him off first.
Exactly, that's what he thinks. And I'm thinking, oh, but you mistreated my mom and so forth. And then, you know, and it was I really wish now that then already in my varsity years I would have been able to actually start reconnecting with him then already. I delayed it, unfortunately, because I was still hurting, you know. And I should have reconnected then already, so that it just gives him that affirmation that no, you're still my dad. It doesn't matter what happened between you and my mom. It actually had nothing to do with you. And it's difficult to accept that, yes, it affected me, but it had nothing to do with you. Because he was still a parent to me.
Yes.
And all I had to do was just take that first step. And as a Christian girl, practice that, as difficult as it was. You know, I knew what it was to be forgiving, and I knew already, okay, God, this is how you go about forgiving someone. So I think I could have actually taken that step and say, you know what? this marriage had nothing to do with me. Let me make up with my dad. Let him know, because I think they just want to know.
They just want to know.
We're still their children.
Yes.
They want to know that. Yes, they might have failed in their marriage, but it's got nothing to do with
Yeah.
us. And just being able to do that, I think it might have changed things in the long run. I think maybe the reconciliation might have happened quicker,
Yeah.
and we would be closer than where we are now.
Yes.
And it makes a difference, like you're saying, that it impacts your later and your relationship,
Yeah.
even with this person, if possible, later.